and Cherargei say was not sustainable. The subsidy was just not sustainable. And had to go.
Well, thanks again, Trevor. In my many years on earth, I've come to the realization that the most difficult thing to do is to defend government. Very, very difficult. Because firstly, the two gentlemen sandwiching me today claim to be in government, but they come here without any tangible information from the same government, but they are still expected to defend that government. This is what I would want to say. You asked Honorable Cherargei a very simple question, that your campaigns was, the campaigns were premised on reduction of prices of essential items, and it is decrease the cost of living. That is the question that you asked him. And the same question, I think, was revolving around the head of the president as he was talking in Kasarani. How do we lower, in the interim, the cost of living? Now, in the interim, they have increased the cost of living in the interim. And confronted with this question, the president simply said that, by the way, there is 1.4 million bags of fertilizer on the way coming to Kenya. Fertilizer, not food. That is fertilizer, which is a farm input. What the president is simply saying is that look for 3,500 shillings somewhere. Buy a bag of fertilizer. Look for money to go and till your land and retail that land, and then apply that fertilizer. Go look for money to buy seeds. Go look for money to plant. Go look for money to weed, and ultimately harvest. And out of that harvest, the president expects there will be a bumper harvest in the country. And under the maximum of demand and supply, there will be a glut of maize in the country that will inevitably pull down the prices of maize and, by extension, other food items. That is the president talking. Now, the president also understands that it is not just about tilling land, planting, and all that. There is the element which is natural of supply of rainfall, and that is not under his purview. That is not within our reach. That is controlled by our God in heaven. So I understand it is a very prayerful government, so I hear. And they must have consulted gods in heaven. And they have been told, by the way, there will be sufficient amount of rainfall that will, create a bumper harvest at the end of the day. And we are going to reap, and reap very big. So they do not know these answers. So what they are saying, for now, let the country die. But for those who will survive this calamity, because it is a calamity from increased food prices, out of this calamity, those who will have survived will now enjoy the bumper harvest, which will inevitably be a glut by their understanding. My friend here talks about hoarding fuel. Yeah. And this used to be a common phenomenon before, when people knew that oil prices will be escalated. Then they will hoard that fuel until EPRA gives a new pricing structure. Yeah. How that affects the prices of items, which is dictated by EPRA, I do not understand. But even if the hoarding would have been in place, but because now we have enough oil in the market, thanks to President Uhuru Kenyatta, if that price is controlled by EPRA, EPRA may, certain times, be divulging that information to a few oil suppliers, very few. And certain times we've also seen the prices go down. Yeah. So we cannot now hide behind hoarding of fuel and now claim that that affects, by way of default, the prices of items, which is dictated by an established government body. Unless this government is going to say, let us revert back to the scheme of you sell your items as much as you want, without any price control, then you would understand why the prices may escalate. But this is now a government body regulating prices of these items. Okay. He talked about demonstration in the U.S. in response to a high cost of living. I do not think we are very far off by this action that was taken last night. You know, we also need clear policies on controlling subsidy. My friends here say that people lodge false claims, you know, on those subsidies.
Yeah.
But I think even before that idea of subsidy was birthed by their government, you know, which now they managed to quickly run away from under Jubilee, but he was still a Jubilee senator to the last day. I want to believe before that was birthed, they ought to have put measures in place to avoid unscrupulous business people claiming, you know, falsely on things that are never owed to them.
Okay.
So this idea of, you know, misusing subsidy. Subsidy has really helped our country.
Okay.
And their campaigns were actually premised on Mama Mboga, Boda Boda, and other lowly earners of revenue. Yeah, the bottom-up model.
Should this have been done in reverse then? Maintain the subsidy for maybe just 1 month and then review the prices, the taxes of the fuel, which are about 9 or 8 of them.
Correct.
In the interim, so that in the interim, the people are cushioned from the rising, skyrocketing cost of fuel.
Two things that I want to say is that while answering that, is that you have heard that for the last 4 months we have used 60 billion.
Yes.
And the sad reality is that most of the oil retailers, some of them have been paid. It is only few, like 4 companies that have been paid that were well connected in the previous government. So what I want to say, and the country cannot live on subsidies for long. It is just like telling somebody you can live on loan, where you always have to borrow. At some point in life, you must at least outgrow the borrowing of loan and be able to be financially stable. So from where I sit, since it was coming to an end, and you know, Jared is not admitting to the nation that the reason they introduced Unga subsidy, the reason there was fuel subsidy, was they are part of the goodies to try and get Azimio government elected. And therefore, when it became apparent that the subsidy coincidentally was coming to an end, when just barely 2 days, and you know, they should tell the nation they wasted a lot of time. If they had allowed the President William Ruto to settle in after 14th of when the election, the results were declared in August, without going to Supreme Court, wasting almost a number of days, it would have allowed the government to settle down immediately and address. But I want to confirm to you, and he knows. Anyway, I understand for Jared, they have never been in government. And that is why they are doing what they are doing best, and that is providing checks and balances. And by the way, President William Ruto has agreed that for a functional democracy, checks and balances and oversight of government must be in place. So from where I sit is that the issue of fuel subsidy, the issue of Unga subsidy, the issue of cost of living, I said from my opening remarks, is multifaceted issue. You cannot just say, let us address fuel issues, let us address Unga issues. If we must approach it from multifaceted angle, where you provide food security by ensuring that they subsidize seeds and fertilizer, by ensuring that the economy becomes stable, and therefore reviewing those taxes, as you have said. I think the long-term strategy, and I agree with you on that aspect, is how do we review these taxes that have been levied on the fuel, so that if we can see, we can measure some of the taxes or remove some of them, so that it can allow the cost of, because it doesn't make sense. You walk to a petrol station, you pay those taxes, they come through that road maintenance levy fund, we bring it together, and then use it now for subsidy. Then the long term, and I agree with you that the government and when parliament has been set in place, when the ministry is in place, I think the best issue is to put in place where we can review some of the taxation so that we make the cost of living. So I agree, I want to confirm to Jared and the rest of the Kenyans that the cost of living should and must come down in the next few days, because, you know, we will review this after 100 days of President William Ruto in office. Finally, on the issue of fuel hoarding and artificial shortage, this has been the strategy by most of the oil marketers. And I want to tell Jared and other Kenyans, these people know what they are doing. They just want to create crisis at petrol station. You know now, you know, and this is now where what do you call these people who sell by the roadside now, because you remember when there was crisis, especially when we were doing nominations, there were some people who were selling outside, even outside the fuel petrol station. So that is why I'm appealing to government, and I can confirm this, that the government will listen to this and ensure that if there is any oil marketer or retailer who is hoarding fuel or creating artificial shortage, because by the way, if Kenya Pipeline Corporation, the KPC, has not told us in their terminals there is no fuel, we can agree there is no fuel. But since that fuel is there and is with the oil marketers and their share and ratio has been given to them, they don't have any reason as to why they want to create artificial shortage. And that is, by the way, when we end this subsidy and create a stable economy, an economic transformation, I can assure you, you will never hear about fuel loading, artificial shortage from the fuel pump. And I think these are some of the things must be brought to, unless the opposition, the minority side led by the people like Jared, want to ensure that for every time when we introduce a subsidy, it comes to an end. And by the way, the Speaker Kagushi has explained very well that it is not that when you give subsidy, the oil marketers or the retailers that sell you fuel will now not be, they will give you at that price. The government must come back and compensate them for the difference that they have sold you that fuel. So I want to say that this is a big challenge across the world, by the way, and it has affected many countries. I can see US, it's coming down. Europe also is stabilizing. And you know, there are many factors. These are international issues. If, for example, we were drilling oil, for example, in Kenya, then we would rightly complain as to why this cost of fuel must come down. So we must also, and by the way, what is important, and Kenya should know this, and I know Jared is well versed with this because sometimes he deals with dollars, that the exchange rate, you know, he used to work for an international NGO where he used to be paid in dollars. And he knows that the dollar has continued to gain against the shilling. It will always affect the sell per barrel that is being sold to the oil, per barrel to the oil in the country. So all in all, I think let us also give time government. Let us, this is a multifaceted approach. Even if you give fuel subsidy and you have not given provided the fertilizer and many others, and you know, Jared should be honest with the country. Where I come from and where he comes from, it is raining. Okay. So we should be now, I want to advise that he should look for his governor, Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, liaise with the national government, get them subsidized seeds and fertilizer. Okay. Within 3 months, within the next 6 months, we have food production going up, the cost of food will come down, and therefore eventually the cost of living will come down. That's the long-term solution. And he can use an example of Malawi, where Malawi invested then with the late president by providing necessary subsidy in terms of inputs and ensuring that there is food security, and in terms of cost of living will automatically come down.
Kagushi, I want us to move away from this fuel conversation and see how it turns out in the long run. But there's something that's coming to the floor of Parliament, where you all are seated now. The removal of the 4 IBC commissioners, who said that the process was opaque. Should they be lauded for standing by what they thought was the truth at the time? Or should they be held to account and be hounded out of office?
Well, just give me a minute to just put a comment on the issue of the fuel subsidy and say that, you know, Kenya is a country where we are inheriting when it is in ICU. The truth of the matter is, and it was clearly indicated during the swearing-in ceremony, the country doesn't have anything in the coffers. We have to contend with the repayment of our debts as 60% of our revenues that we are collecting. And at the same time, we are subsidizing these oil marketers, but at the same time, most of them are not reflecting the same to the consumers. They're still claiming what you have subsidized them. And at the same time, the government itself also is also delaying to submit these subsidies, revenues to the oil marketers. So it's a cycle which is not just adding up. And that has caused the distortions that you see in prices. That has caused the distortions that you see in terms of supply. That is what is even creating the issue of hoarding and all that. And if you can remember, just a while ago, when the handshake government was in force, we had no supply at the pump station when there was so much fuel in the country. And this went on for so long. And yet, the subsidy still existed. The supply was so much in the country. And the prices were relatively low. Yeah. But we couldn't access this commodity. In fact, we were buying through jerry cans and all that. A friend of mine described the situation as a case where Peter is robbing Paul, but not paying Paul. And Peter is also not getting any benefit at all. So everyone has been losing from this subsidy program. And so the best thing has been stop it first and let us reorganize. And I'm sure the government will be able to reorganize this within the shortest time possible. So I would like to tell our viewers there is hope, and there's so much hope that things are going to work out well. Remember, the Kenya Kwanza government is in office only for 3 days. And at least you can see someone who is determined to work out things to help Kenyans. It's not like the fuel prices were low anyway. They were very high. And so we are going to have the Kenya Kwanza government working around the clock, ensuring that every coin is saved. We don't lose any money through some of these dealers. And so there's hope in as far as cost of living coming down is concerned. Never mind some of the challenges that we're having in the short term. Now, we have the 4 commissioners that were you can easily call them the opaque 4. And they had very interesting and very weird reasons as to why they could not agree with the results that they themselves had formulated, had tallied. Let me not say formulated, but let me say tallied. The results they had themselves tallied. It's very strange that these 4 commissioners thought it wise to want to vote on our vote. It is very suspicious that these 4 commissioners only realized that they had been forced, or they had been coerced, or they had been manipulated, or they had been denied access to the information only at the very last minute. Even though what they say they were denied, we could see them on TV, live TV, announcing those results. It's even more weird that they reacted when the so-called NSAC, the National Security Council, and their representatives went and had a discussion with that team. And they apparently differed, or allegedly differed, on that recommendation of moderation of our vote. Now, these commissioners know very well they were put in office with the reasons for ensuring that they somehow help whoever their masters were to have a certain candidate announced as the winner. They know very well that was the reason why they were put in office. And I pity them, because you don't want to be the one to be given some work. Sometimes you all want to bail the cat. I mean, sometimes we want the cat bailed. But oh, unto you, if you are the one who is given if you are the rat which is given the work of bailing the cat, because you might just be consumed alive. Now, these 4 commissioners found themselves in this most unfortunate and awkward situation where they were supposed to be acting for their masters, and their masters did not facilitate them sufficiently, adequately, and in a timely manner as to help them, assist them to deliver whatever results they were supposed to. I mean, their masters sat back comfortably and hoped by some miracle these 4 commissioners would still deliver. Now, unfortunately, they found themselves in the wrong side of the law, because they queried results which were transparent, which were in an open server, which were clearly tallied properly. They knew very well that commission was not about the commissioners. The commission was about the returning officers. The commission was about the voters. The commission was about what was happening at the polling station. And so, by the time these results are coming to the commissioners, they have no much power on these results. I mean, these 4 commissioners now still wanted to moderate these results which were coming from the returning officers who were all over the country. Now, they are in the most unfortunate situation because now their masters are not there, their masters are gone. They executed an illegal plan. They did a very weird attempt to try and bring about a coup to a legitimately elected government.
All these things you're saying were not pronounced by the Supreme Court, you know.
I am pronouncing now. I am now the one pronouncing.
But you don't have the
I'm now the no. You can't say I don't have the authority.
I just want to hear your argument when this petition comes to the floor of the House, which you will be in.
You know, you can't say I don't have authority to pronounce.
But how?
The Supreme Court gave the basis. Once the Supreme Court declared them out of order. And I mean, then we are now supposed to infer from this judgment and make our own opinion, informed opinion for that purpose and for that matter. And of course, then when it comes to the floor of the House, you don't expect any different argument. We will, still push the same argument because these commissioners, not only are they supposed to be removed from the commission, but they're also supposed to have treasonable charges preferred against them in the court of law, so that them, together with their accomplices that were making these arguments on the issue of moderation of votes. I mean, how do you attempt to overthrow a validly elected and legally elected government?
Okay.
And so that has cost us so much as a country, caused so much tension.
Yeah.
I'm told by there, for example, when we were all watching TV, everything looked so peaceful up to the last minute when senators and elected leaders and officials went and took a violent attempt to try and topple the tables and all that. I'm told, and this happened in some of the families where the whole family was watching TV and then all of a sudden the violence came about and they were watching. I'm telling you, some of the children were screaming. Some of the children were crying. They were clutching on their parents. And this really is a situation that we were put in by these opaque 4.
Okay. All right. And Jared, what will be your argument when this comes to Parliament, to the floor of Parliament? Because it's already there. It's actually been received in Parliament.
Thank you very much. Two quick things before I come there. My friend Cherargei talked about a functional democracy where the president has pronounced himself that he will employ a greater access to checks and balances of his government. The same president buying people from Azimio to join his side to kill the same democracy he's now talking about.
Would you blame the president for that or the people from Azimio who are shifting to the other side?
The president. I blame the president for that.
But he's not forcing anyone to shift. How would you blame him and not the people who are shifting? Have you been approached to shift? How come you haven't shifted?
Well, they know me. They know me. They know me. I'm a man of principles and honor. They know. They can't even dare.
Who should be blamed?
Yeah, they can't even dare. Even the two here cannot even persuade me to do that. But anyhow, the brother here talked about the country in ICU, that they are inheriting a country that is almost bankrupt. Almost. A country where the deputy president has been sitting in the same government for 10 years and is now starting his 11th year as president. But the country is still in ICU. And therefore you can see why the escalated prices of items under the same government that has subjected us into this ICU for the last 11 years. You've asked a fundamental question. Article 119 of our Constitution gives every Kenyan an opportunity to petition Parliament over any subject matter. Farmers' Party, a proxy of Kenya Kwanza, and their sponsors here have really confirmed that this is their petition, have come before Parliament to discuss the conduct of Cherera 4, the 4 commissioners who walked out during the tallying at Bomas of Kenya. Firstly, the merit of that petition will have to be ascertained, and I want to believe that the new speaker will rise above parochial party interests and look at the bigger picture of these 4 commissioners in regards to the petition that has been brought before Parliament. If it does not merit, if it does not reach the threshold, because not all petitions brought before Parliament are subjected to debate. Some fall below the threshold and will have to be thrown out. And I think this is one of them. But if political interest will override the tenets of our laws, and they allow this to come before Parliament, then we are there to listen, to debate, to defend where necessary. We saw how the 4 commissioners read wrong results at the Bomas of Kenya, results that had to be recalled, to be corrected. Kiambu, for instance, had a 10,000 votes over and above what William Ruto got, and that had to be corrected. The other commissioner read another one that had, I think, 20,000 over and above what had been allocated to William Ruto, and that had to be recalled. And therefore, punishing these people for reading wrong results that they never verified beforehand, just because a chairperson has mandated them to go and read them and embarrass them in the international glare of cameras. These are matters of facts that we will also have to interrogate, even as that petition comes before Parliament. So it is still feeding into the notion that this was an opaque verification. The opaque verification has led us into the quagmire that we have as a country today. Now, why they are being put on the chopping board is because they exercise the democratic right to come up with a dissenting view. Judges, the Supreme Court judges, have this tradition where you are allowed, not even Supreme Court judges, even the appellate court, the Court of Appeal, you are allowed to write a dissenting view. You either express it or you write it. And the Supreme Court of 2017, that harshly indicted this same person who is now their hero, called Chebukati, and the other 2, had a dissenting view of 2 judges who were not in consonant with the decision of 2017. And these 2 judges, even though they walked out of what would then have amounted to a unanimous decision, were not indicted at all because they exercised their democratic right. Okay. This Cherera 4 simply exercised their democratic right. You remember, the same Supreme Court now, which is being held by my gentleman here, found that these commissioners were actually given peripheral duties, which the courts call domestic chores. Now, it now moves from domestic chores, and now they are being hunted like a lion for just exercising what ought to really have happened at the time. The big question is, and I want the country to know this, Chebukati and company I mean the 2, Gulie and Molu, are retiring in January, okay? They have finished their term of duty, even though bungling 2 elections in a row. 2 elections. One nullified by no simple court but the Supreme Court of Kenya. And
the other one unanimously upheld by that same
by the same court.
You can't say 2, you can only say 1.
Yeah, by the same court. So in 2017, the courts found that illegalities and irregularities were conducted by the same IEBC. If you were to talk about somebody who had an intention to topple the leadership of a country, then it is those 3 who still exist in office to date. But now there is a way that the new Supreme Court has washed them, and they're now so clean that the 4 who did nothing but to express their democratic right are now being put on the chopping board. We will not allow that to happen.
But do you even have the numbers as the opposition to take a substantive stand? You're the one who said that most of your people are on the other side. Even if the UDA team decide that that is what they're doing, can you do anything about it?
Well, removing a commissioner is not a walk in the park. That is just a petition before Parliament, which will be debated, and the decision of Parliament is never final. You still expect this matter to move all the way, tribunals all the way, and even court. The court will get involved. So it may still go back again to the Supreme Court. But I wanted to make put a few things into perspective. Why they are being hunted is that when the 3 retire in January, you will still have 4 who, by the imagination of Kenya Kwanza, are not aligned to them. So that the 3 that will come into office will be not probably, but will have to be employed, or rather given that job by the sitting president. So by their calculation, they already see a fierce 4 against 3 who will come into office courtesy of their involvement. So they think that they still have a problem. So they are using people like Farmers' Party as proxies to bring this matter so that these people can be hounded out of office, and then they will have a reconstitution of a new IEBC, 7 aligned to Kenya Kwanza. So these people are not being, frog-marched out of office because of any transgression of any law, because no one has really found them culpable for anything. In fact, it is the Supreme Court that could have found them culpable for any misconduct. The same Supreme Court said, and let me make it clear, that they were not going to be dragged into a dysfunctionality of IEBC. You remember they filed 2 separate affidavits from IEBC, and a decision had to be made on which one to stand. Yeah. And the Supreme Court judges said, please don't involve us into a dysfunctionality of your own commission. Okay. Now, when you talk about a dysfunctionality of anybody, including here at Citizen, then you're talking about the head, which is the bosses here. So in essence, they were talking about the dysfunctionality of Chebukati, who could not marshal his troops for the common interest of the country. Okay. I wish Farmers' Party could have done the right thing by bringing a petition against Chebukati, Molu, and Boyu, instead of these innocent 4 who just did nothing but the right thing before the country. Okay. So it is important to say that when the matter will come before us, we are going to defend them, both inside the house, outside the house, and even on Citizen TV. We will defend them. So they should not worry. We are there to defend them with the truth.
Yes.
Not trivializing anything.
A quick one on the issue of mass defections to Kenya Kwanza by Azimio, Azimio affiliate parties. You remember most of these people have said on record that they were forced to be in Azimio, and we know the reason. Like Kiraitu Murungi was intimidated and blackmailed and threatened with prosecution to support the Azimio, the UDM and the rest. And therefore, the issue of mass defections is Kenya Kwanza is a coalition of the willing, both pre- and post-coalition agreement. So I want to appeal to my brother that they should know how to keep their partners within Azimio. And you remember they amended the Political Parties Act. We were being fought. They said they have the numbers. But the problem is that they were forcing to lock most of these political parties within Azimio. And them have moved on. Let us allow people to make their own political choices and political rights under Article 37 and 38, so that you have a right to associate whoever you want. Therefore, it doesn't hold water. The people coming to Kenya Kwanza, this is a government for everybody. This is not a Kenya Kwanza government. It is a government for and by the people of Kenya, led by President William Ruto. So I want to tell my brother, make your spouses within the alliance happy. I can see there's a lot of fire even when they are fighting for leadership positions in the House, and they know where the rain started beating them. And we want to assure those who come to Kenya Kwanza that they are welcome, and the President has indicated that he's willing and ready to work with everybody. That on the issue of the 4 commissioners, you know, I was shocked when Azimio, my brothers, including Jared, were demonstrating and resisting and saying that the IEBC and Wafula Chebukati did not conduct free, credible, and verifiable presidential election or election. But it is the same IEBC who presided an election in Nyando and declared Jared a winner. I didn't see Jared declining to be sworn in because he didn't believe the elections were correct. So it is, you can't have your cake and eat it. It is as simple as that.
Well, what was before the Supreme Court was presidential election, not Jared election.
That is, I'm building my argument. And you know, when Jared was speaking, when Jared was speaking, I was studiously listening in silence. He should listen to me in silence. And you know, he's a senior member, he's a ranking member of parliament. He should keep quiet.
Not yet.
When he's coming to second term, he should keep quiet when a senior member and ranking member of the upper house is speaking. Anyway, on a lighter touch. So these are some of the critical issues that we must ask ourselves. Election results were declared at the polling station. It was not declared. What happened was tallying and verification in Bomas. So, and in fact, what the Azimio, and in fact, that was informed the decision about opening servers.
Yeah.
The IEBC did something genius. They displayed the results at public portal. These people, by the way, they don't dispute the numbers. They're always talking about the process because they know by numbers we beat them. And even the petition that they took to Supreme Court, their argument was that the President William Ruto did not achieve 50+1. And I think that was the biggest. But in all and said and said, the Farmers Party of Kenya, just like any other Kenyan, they have a right to petition National Assembly. And this matter to pass, by the way, needs simple majority. So it's not a big deal because Kenya Kwanza has over 180 members of parliament that can easily pass this petition, request or direct the president to form a tribunal to investigate these commissioners. And therefore, if they are found culpable, and we are not saying, and by the way, even as we look at this petition, there must be a judicial inquiry to what happened. Because the chaos we saw, I saw even elected governor, elected senator, punching Chebukati. I was there. Even hooligans speaking things, throwing. And Deputy Inspector of General of Police, DIG, was standing and allowing goons to throw things. For us who were in Bomas, we were shocked because this was a civil coup of democracy of the Republic of Kenya. Even if I agree, and by the way, the chief agent of Azimio had a right to protest. But he is a lawyer. He knew that if they felt that what Chebukati was about to declare was not what they wanted to hear or they were not comfortable with, they had an option of going to Supreme Court, which they did. But they didn't need to cause chaos. I was there in Bomas of Kenya. It was embarrassing. So even as we look at these 4 commissioners, who, by the way, were smiling happily, beautifully on our screens, reading the results, confirming to the nation that they participated in collating verification and they were assigned duties because in any way, the election results were already declared at the polling station. So what they were just doing is to verify, tally, and read the results. And they participated, by the way, up to the last minute. And they must tell the nation why did they want to put this nation or subvert the people, the issues. Because let's assume, Trevor, and this was the argument. If, for example, these 4 commissioners did not agree with the results, should they have voted on our vote? That is the question. Number 2, by the way, what Jared is going, you know, when you are in a hole, you should stop digging it. Because the same 4 commissioners were appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta and his brother, Raila Odinga, in handshake government in 2021. As Kenya Kwanza, and then when our presidential candidate, the current president, Dr. William Ruto, at that time we didn't protest. Because these 4 commissioners had the assignment that had been cut out. And therefore, when they were in Bomas and they realized they could not sway Chebukati and the other commissioners and the IEBC, the only way they had to save face was by walking out. And we know what they were doing, who was protecting them, and what they were doing. So they must tell them. And by the way, what is shocking, they have also said, we agree with the decision of the Supreme Court on them. I agree on the issue of the issues of dysfunctional about the institutions. Yeah. Those are matters of internal issues of corporate governance. And I think IEBC will keep better because my brother, Jared, when the Supreme Court nullified elections in 2017, it was the guiding line of Wafula Chebukati and IEBC to follow, which they did it. And you know, if a decision is made, IEBC was new. These are some of the things that you could always improve at the IEBC. On the issue of Supreme Court decision, and I think, you know, if there are investigations and violation of the law, this is the work of DCI and DPP to do, and we opt to. But finally, even as we look at the 4 commissioners, as I said in my opening remarks, we must form a judicial inquiry because the affidavits that were filed in Supreme Court are damning information. We want to know why there was security lapse at the Bomas of Kenya. Okay. Yet the police were there. Who was responsible? Who was coordinating until Kenyans saw scenes that were not palatable for our growing democracy. And by the way, I want to appeal to our members of Parliament of Kenya Kwanza that this petition should be processed expeditiously, allow the president to form tribunal. You know, there is the principle of natural justice. Let these 4 commissioners go and tell that tribunal the reason they disagreed. We are Kenyans, will be ready to reason. Okay. If they convince the country that the position they took by walking away from bombers was legal and lawful and constitutional, then no one will remove them from their offices. Okay. But if they were there with the intention of trying to subvert the will of the people, they will be forgiven, but they must face, and I have said this on several occasions, if there was commission or omission or commission by any officers who participated in an election, they are forgiven, but they must face full consequences of the law, because that's how we protect our democracy.
All right, let me bring up some feedback really quick and then take closing remarks from you briefly and give you an update here. There's been a message that has been sent through on some sad news after the demise of the Baringo Deputy Governor, Philip Kipng'or. The Deputy President has sent in his condolence message. I've just received an update here. President William Ruto has sent a condolence message to the family of Governor and residents of Baringo County, Deputy Governor, that is following the sudden death of the Deputy Governor, Charles Kipng'or. Honorable Kipng'or, former chairperson of the Kenya Tea Growers Association, is reported to have succumbed to breathing complications while waiting to board a Mombasa-bound Kenya Airways flight at JKIA on Wednesday evening. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but let's bring up some of your feedback and then take closing remarks. Kipng'eno, head boy, says fuel hike isn't solely caused by the removal of the fuel subsidy. Taxes account to almost 50% of the fuel prices. Therefore, the government has to have an urgent sit-down with IPRA and KRA. Reduction in taxes is now the only option. Okay? Sagioko says subsidies are not healthy. They must be removed. Let's be cognizant to macroeconomics forces. Remember, cell phone calls started at 75 shillings a minute, but market forces pushed this to cents today. You cannot put an economy on long-term oxygen. It must breathe. Okay. Interesting analogy. Engineer Lazaro says, Honorable Cherargei, President Ruto is now different from the one we used to during campaign. He's now the father of the nation and should be advised properly not to revisit and victimize campaign rivals. IBC 4 were just expressing their views. Okay. Kinywa Mushoki says President Ruto administration success will be good for Kenya. Behaviors of opposition parties that are not good for the democracy should not be allowed. Okay. Bobo Tino Wino says the 4 IBC commissioners should have been in jail by now for going against the oath of office, not forgetting the legislators who assaulted IBC chair Wafula Chebukati at Bomas during tallying of presidential votes. Okay. Steve Osore says, what an irony. Now the Kenya Kwanza government owners see nothing wrong with the high fuel prices. Instead, they blame the subsidy. Now their response to the question of fuel is answered by low fertilizer prices. Isaac Mudusi says, how will farmers handle transportation cost? If the cost of fuel is up there economically, the stability of your subsidization will fail in prospect. Okay? Kipngeno head boy again says, both levels of government should increase budgetary allocation to agriculture to at least 10% of the total budget. Agriculture as it is right now isn't adequately funded, hence the reason why we have about 3 million Kenyans who need food aid. Kagusha, I'll start with you on closing remarks after the feedback there on State of the Nation. Which way forward now? And also you can take this time to send in your condolences to the family and friends of Baringo Deputy Governor Philip Kipngor.
Indeed,
suddenly died yesterday.
Indeed, I send my condolences to the family and people of Baringo County for losing their DG. And I say sorry, and may the peace of God be with you, comfort you, and give you strength in knowing that the Deputy Governor is in a better place. And I pray also for our leaders that God may preserve their lives at a moment like this when we want to turn around this country. I would also want to point out, especially on one of the responses, that the Kenya Kwanza government does not see anything wrong in high fuel prices. We see everything wrong. And I do not think we are insensitive at all. We are very sensitive. It's something that we have been talking about all through our campaign period. It's something that we are very concerned and deeply concerned. And I would want to say that I am sure that the Kenya Kwanza government will not leave in a stone unturned, whatever it takes to ensure that the fuel prices go down, hence lowering the cost of living. That will be done. I mean, this is just our third day in office. You can't say we are not now concerned. What I would want to appeal to Kenyans is give us time, give the government time, give the president time to be able to deal with the skyrocketing prices, both in food prices and also fuel prices. That will be done. I mean, even if the president today woke up and realized that having the subsidy back maybe for a day or two or for a month or so is what is going to still help us cushion consumers. Yeah. I mean, he will do it, and he has a free hand. So really, I think we shouldn't be worried. The good thing is that the president we are having is going to be a listening president. He's a guy who, when he takes a decision, he will be explaining to Kenyans to understand, so that he can also get the best of advice from everyone. I would also want to point out that what Honorable Jared here would want to call the Cherera 4, and I think that would be very erroneous. They should be the OPEC 4. No. Just saying the OPEC 4. Yeah. I think what they did was not right, and so they should face consequences of what they did. And also, they also put their credibility and also their capacity into question. Okay. Remember the challenge of truncating numbers, very simple math that was taught in lower primary school, like number truncation. I mean, they could base the issue of the 100.001% as one of the main reasons why they were jumping the gun. Okay. I mean, and also it's also known clearly that some of those numbers that were being read, the adding of 10,000 or 20,000, as you say, is also known to be mischief. All because right. How do you read or how do you add 10,000 votes when the number you are given from the table where the tallying was being done did not have or did not include the 10,000? Right. It is known it was mischief. Yep. You are trying to create some distortions in those numbers, and a time now has come when they have to answer those questions.
Okay, I'm running out of time, but that petition is with you guys in Parliament. We'll see how you argue it out. Honorable Kelo, very brief closing remarks.
My heart goes out to the family and friends of the Deputy Governor for Baringo, Philip Kipngor, and the people of Baringo in general. We hope that God will give them the power and the strength to bear the loss, and our prayers will always be with them. Trevor, I'm very afraid of any person who worked under Moi, the former president, especially those who are in the choir of always saying, Baba wa Taifa, Tawala Kenya Tawala, such as that one president, William Samoei Ruto. These were the hatchet boys of former president. William Ruto is not known for anything historical about this country. When we were removing Section 2A of the former constitution to bring about multi-party democracy, he was nowhere. When we were removing the dictatorial regime in 2002, he was nowhere. When we birthed a new constitutional order in 2010, William Ruto was nowhere. So be very afraid of those who never supported advancement of our democratic ideals, and that is the person we have in Parliament. William Ruto has captured now, 3 days of his administration, all the three segments of government, starting with the executive, where he now controls. He has moved into Parliament and bought off those who are aligned to Azimio and those who are also part of independent members of Parliament, so that he can galvanize the House. Now you can see he has also taken control of the judiciary by firstly appointing people who were under question by the former president. He has added them 3 billion shillings. He has implemented the judiciary fund, and all these are meant to capture the judiciary, so that
even though he said that they're allowed to do their work independent.
Yeah, well, that is what he's saying. He's also saying
a public pronouncement.
He's also saying
not interfere with
great, and he's also saying
institutions.
He's also saying Azimio should play its oversight role without any interference. Then he comes around to poach our members of Parliament. So never, never, and I want to say never, never take William Ruto serious on what he says. But that is him. So you can see also the capture that is now around the police force or the police service. So this is a person who would want to capture all the independent institutions, put them under his feet and control them from State House. And that is going to continue for a long time. And we are ready for all this.
Okay.
But I want to say this.
Yeah.
That because of parliamentary capture and the agreement that Azimio affiliates have, what they intend to do now, because there is a constitutional provision which was deponed by the register of political parties, that you cannot walk out of Azimio 3 months after the election. They want to suspend any meeting of Parliament until after 3 months. Then they will make a determination as to who is majority and who is minority.
Right.
So, and finally, let me say that I know you are running out of time. Kenyans must brace themselves for a very difficult times ahead. They fell for Rossi Manifesto from Kenya Kwanza, and the same manifesto has now skyrocketed prices of everything by more than 20%.
All right.
So let them be ready to face the wrath of a regime that they have brought into office.
Gerard Gay, final remarks.
Thank you very much. I think my brother Jared should be told in uncertain terms that is an Azimio. And you know, for us who, God willing, succeeded in winning and forming government, we shall be magnanimous. But losing also, we understand they are going through motions of grieving, and one of them is denial. But as one of the people said, wishing your president to fail is also wishing your country to fail. What I expect from responsible opposition, led by Azimio, is to do checks and balances, which in a responsible way for the betterment and growth of the country and democracy. Finally, is to call upon Kenyans that there is no room to relax. Let us get our hands on the deck. This is the president, is only 3 days in office. Let's give him the support that he needs for him to succeed, and the government, so that he can serve Kenyans for better tomorrow. And therefore, I want to appeal to Kenyans that I know there is a lot of pressure, there is high cost of living, there is challenges, there is CBC, there is many challenges in the country. But if we allow the government to at least put in policy in place and allow some of these things to be formed, the country can move forward.
All right.
So I want to ask, and they know that the Political Parties Act that they passed was trying and locking people in Azimio. But if people want to leave Azimio, let them be allowed to associate with whoever they want.
All right.
and therefore to relax. But Jared, you are free. There will be no reprisals, by the way.
Okay.
When Anshe government, which Jared was part, we used to call our phone calls WhatsApp using Signal. We used to meet in the dark because there was a lot of arrests. Yeah. Personally, I was arrested until I asked the police to contract a cell for me because of just coming. By the way, for coming to this Trevor appearing in State of the Nation, it got me arrested on several occasions because the handshake government could not take the criticism. Okay. But I want to assure him in Kenya Kwanza, every Kenyan is free to do oversight, checks and balances, and no one will receive reprisals because freedom is here.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to invite Jared to come to Kenya Kwanza. But
no, I know how to take care of him. So
please allow him to send condolences. He has forgotten.
Oh, yes.
And that is his brother.
On behalf of, sorry. On behalf of, he's my neighbor. I will see how to take care of him.
Yes.
On behalf of the people of Nandi, on my own behalf, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the people of Baringo for losing their newly elected deputy governor, to the governor Cheboya and the government and the people of Baringo. Our prayers are with you. We are praying for you and we are wishing well and praying for the family, even as they mourn their departed, our colleague leader. And also to pass our message of condolences also to the people of Great Britain, for the demise of Queen Elizabeth II. And we wish the Britons all the best as they continue to mourn the Queen.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time this morning. Honorable Samson Gerard Gay, Nandi Senator, Honorable Jared Okello, Member of Parliament Nyando, Honorable John Kagusha, Member of Parliament Kuruweini. There's a condolence message from the President. President William Ruto has sent a message of condolence to the family and governor and residents of Baringo County following the sudden death of Deputy Governor Charles Kipngok. I want to read just part of it. It says that the sudden death of my friend Charles Kipngok is a big blow, not only to his family, friends, government and residents of Baringo County, but to the entire country, especially to the T subsector where he excelled for decades before recently opting for elective politics. It is extremely unfortunate that the unforgiving hand of death has robbed our country of Honorable Kipngok at the start of his term as Deputy Governor, and all that would have enabled him to contribute to the transformation of Baringo County. That's according to the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. He says the President prayed to God to grant the comfort and fortitude to the family, friends and relatives of Honorable Kipngok as well as residents of Baringo County during this difficult period of mourning. Signed, President, His Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. We too here, the Royal Media Services family, our condolences goes out to the people